Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachar. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS who have taught us this word and teach us this word today. And I want to give a salutation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the brother Yatazakbar with the GMS Nebraska camp. And in this lesson, what I want to get into is based off of this recent news, this ongoing war between the U.S. and Israel with Iran, and just speaking on a few things, because this is biblical prophecy taking place right before our eyes. The scriptures say that this will happen, and I just want to go into a couple events that we see and tie it to the scriptures and what it means, its implications, what we're going to see to come. Because what this is all leading to is the current power structure of this world is going to lead to its fall. This is going to lead to Esau, who is the so-called white man. His rule is about to come to an end. That would be marked by World War III. That would be marked by the MOTB, which is the mark of the beast, the RFID chip that Esau is going to push upon the inhabitants of this earth. We're seeing these things approaching, and this war is a major step toward World War III. And so let's get into Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20, which says, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Edom. So again, Edom is the so-called white man, and the elites of Esau, Edom, are the ones who are ruling over this earth today. You have these different politicians and leaders of these different countries, your presidents, your prime ministers and things of the sort, but they are all doing the bidding of the elite banking families that are in power. Those are the ones who are behind the scenes, who are calling the shots, the people we don't see. And Salakia for the noise in the background. These people are doing construction, but yeah, those are the people who are calling the shots behind the scenes, who, these people, these leaders are doing their bidding. But let's read on. It says, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. So the Most High Yahweh the Most High's will is going to come to pass. The Most High has a plan. He has his purpose that is going to play out, and we are seeing it actively playing out, because it says what? Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. So it says the least of the flock shall draw them out. What is that talking about? The least of the flock is talking about the Amalekites, a tribe of the Edomites. Now, the Amalekites are who we see in the land of Israel today. These Israelis, these so-called children of the Most High, they are not the true Israelites. They are imposters who have stolen the true children of Israel's identity. Who are the true children of Israel? Primarily the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the 12 tribes of Israel. We are the true children, and those who on their father's side goes back to being an Israelite by their father's lineage, And so the Amalekites who are in the land today, they aren't the true people. How do we know that? We know that because they don't fulfill biblical prophecy, for one. We know that because they're pushing all type of wickedness in that land, And so we also know that because they are embodying this prophecy to a T. Because it says what? Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. So the least of the flock being the Amalekites. Who are they drawing out? How are they drawing people out? Well, they are going to draw out these different nations around the world to that region that they're in, the so-called Middle East, for war. And we see that happening right now, where you had these Amalekites where they are, they want to take that region. They want that land over there of Palestine. That's why, ever since 1948, they've been, really before that as well, they've been pushing these Palestinians out. They want to take the Strait of Hormuz. They want to, take the Gaza Strip. They want these lands over there. And this is really what that war is about. You have the U.S. with their propaganda. They'll say that the war is because they want to get rid of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and get rid of their nuclear facilities. But you have other countries in the world that are developing nuclear capabilities, and we don't see America going after them. Or they'll say it's because of terrorism, and America is doing terroristic actions themselves, just like the like with the situation with Venezuela we just seen. So you have different purposes that America pushes as propaganda and says why they're doing certain actions, but at the end of the day, it's so that they can bring their ulterior motives to pass. They are doing the bidding of these Israelis, so they're helping them to take that land. Now, what we're seeing is that Iran is striking back now, and that's prophetic because the scriptures said that they would remember their nature. We're going to get that in 2nd Ezra 15, because the pattern that we've seen up to this point is that, well, look at what just happened with Operation Midnight Hammer a few months back, where you had America did them strikes overnight and destroyed them nuclear facilities in Iran, and there was no retaliation. And that was a pattern, with Iran, where they would often, say threats. They would say they're going to do this and do that, and nothing will happen. Well, the Lord is putting the spirit in them to actually attack. The Lord is putting the spirit in them to actually fight now. And that's how we know that we're getting closer and closer to the end. That's how we know that the Lord is bringing his will to pass, because, well, we're going to get into it. I don't want to jump the gun. Let's just read the precept in 2nd Ezra 15, verse 28, which says, "Behold, an horrible vision." So what's a vision? It is something to come, a prophecy. And that's what the Lord has set us men up, the prophets. He set us up to with the Holy Spirit to understand these prophecies and preach them and let the people know what is to come. So let's get into it. It says, "And the appearance thereof from the east." And where's all this going on? The so-called Middle East. We're looking over toward the east and seeing all this fighting happening. So it says, "Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble." So the dragons of Arabia, biblically the Ishmaelites, we're seeing them gearing up and fighting. You got Hamas and Hezbollah, these troops from out of Lebanon and these Iranian-backed troops. And it says, who else? It says also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. When you look up the Carmanians, let's look them up real fast. The Carmanians today were a fierce warlike people from the ancient Persian province of Carmania, which is modern day Kerman, Iran. So the Carmanians are talking about the Iranians, and it says what? Also the Carmanians, or the Iranians, raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. And then shall the dragon have the upper hand, remembering their nature. So these different nations in the Middle East, it says that they were going to remember their nature, these Ishmaelites. And what did the scriptures describe Ishmael as in the scriptures? A wild man. So the Lord was going to put the spirit back in these back in these heathen to take on that wild nature, to take on that fierce nature, that warlike nature. And we're seeing that happening now, where they've finally come out and are fighting now. They're sending missiles toward Tel Aviv. They've destroyed UK and US warships. I believe that we're in the Strait of Hormuz. As a matter of fact, when the US attacked Iran and killed their Ayatollah, in response, Iran had raised their red flag, and what their red flag represents is revenge. So that's showing that the Lord's putting them back in that mindset of being that wild man. They're not just going to let this slide. Now, the thing is, what we have to understand, well, let's read the rest of this precept, and then I'll make a point. It says, "And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and that they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them." So we have to understand that while this is beautiful, while this is a very spiritual thing happening right now. This is very prophetic. This doesn't mean that the end is here yet. We're getting closer to the end. This is a major step toward the end, a major step towards World War III, which would in World War III, that's where the destruction of this current power that Esau holds would be destroyed. But as the scriptures say in Matthew chapter 24, verse 6, it says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. So it's saying you're going to hear of different wars going on. We're going to see different wars going on. But don't get all riled up. Don't lose your mind yet. Why? It says, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So why is it saying that the end is not yet? Even though we're getting, even though you have all this fighting going on, America's getting involved, Israel's getting involved, we see prophecy coming to pass. It says the end is not yet. Why? Because there's more prophecies that have to come, that still have to come to pass, other than World War III. Before we get to, the peak, before we get to the all the action transpiring, where all the different nations get involved, where we see Russia get involved, China, North Korea, all these different countries, NATO turning against America, the EU. Before we see these things happen, we have to look out for what? The prophecy of the MOTB, which is still yet to come on a wide scale. But that's being set up, though. That's why we see all these data centers being created. That's why Elon Musk has said that that he's going into large scale production of the Neuralink. Why? Because they're getting ready to roll this MOTB out on a mass scale. We getting closer and closer to the crash of this dollar, and this war right here is adding to that. Is adding to the strain on the markets, because with the Strait of Hormuz being closed because of this fighting, the Strait of Hormuz is where a lot of trade goes through from different countries. As a matter of fact, let's get this real fast because I had something pulled up. I just got to find it. Baba Shah, bear with me. Let's see. It says, yep, the Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 20% of the world's daily crude oil and a significant portion of liquefied natural gas. So let's see how that is going to affect your everyday people. How is that going to affect us? How are we going to see that? So it says, let's see here. Okay. So right here, what is the negative economic impact on U.S. citizens from the U.S. attacking Iran? And it says the most direct and widespread negative effect on everyday Americans is higher fuel and energy costs. Iran produces around 3 to 4% of global oil, but more critically, it can threaten the Strait of Hormuz, through which about 20% of global oil flows. So it says that oil prices are going to go up. And so what's going to happen is that we're going to see higher gasoline prices, increased heating and electricity costs. It's going to be higher food and shipping prices, and this could get, it says prolonged conflict could add 0.6 to 0.7% to global inflation, hitting household budgets harder amid existing economic concerns. So people are going to be looking for an out. Things are about to get hard. This could bring about, what it's saying that this is going to bring about strain, at stores, strains at the pump. And if this fighting persists and gets worse, which it will, according to the scriptures, this could lead to famine, where the scriptures talk about, let's get this real fast. In Revelation chapter 6, verse 6, which says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So a penny represent, in Roman times, it represented a day's pay. So 1 measure of wheat, or you could say like a loaf of bread, representing a day's worth of work. That's inflation. And that's what we're going to be seeing. And it's going to get to the point of hyperinflation, to where eventually what's going to happen is that the strain is going to be too much and people are going to be looking for an out. And that's where Esau can come in and, bring his solution, bring his order out of chaos, which is the MOTB. This is just a situation in which, we could see that prophecy come to pass, or we could move closer to it. This could be, Esau's out to bring about the digital system. We're just going to have to see, but let's go back to some precepts. Let's get, we're going to move to Ezekiel, because we have to understand that there's going to be further escalations in war as things get more and more strained, and the thing is that this war is a way for the Lord to bring about his judgment as well, because as the least of the flock draw these nations out to war, this is a lot of moving pieces in the Lord's movie. We have to understand that when World War III pops off, there's going to be a draft. The Lord's going to have a lot of these 2/3 here in America drafted over to that war, so that they can be judged. That goes into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Let's get that. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 2, which says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Now, Jehoshaphat means Yahweh Shaphat, which is Yahweh's judgment. So where is the Valley of Jehoshaphat? Well, it's around the area of Saudi Arabia, which is in the midst of where this fighting is going on right now. That is going to be the main place where the different nations of this earth, when this fighting, gets to a rolling boil, these armies are going to be meeting there primarily. And it says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. So that word plead means to judge. Let's get into it. The word plead in the Hebrew is Strong's H8199, which is shapat, which is to judge, govern, vindicate, punish. So these people in the armies that's meeting there is going to be a way for the Lord to punish them. And it says, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So this is going to be a way for the Lord to judge these heathen. And that's why we're going to see a lot of different armies getting involved. These people who are going to get drafted and sent over to these countries to fight, they going to be dying in these wars. Let's scroll down a bit. I believe there's more to it. It says in Joel chapter 3 and verse 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And this is the Lord is putting these heathen in a warlike mindset. We about to get it here shortly, but Russia is going to get involved in this war. China is going to get involved, because the thing is there's tensions rising in this earth where these different countries are looking at the actions of America and looking at the actions of Israel, and they are getting tired of they're getting tired of Esau just being a violent man in the earth, being a bully, taking peace from the earth. They getting tired of Esau just striking different places and doing so-called preemptive strikes, which is really just an opportunity to roll down on these people for resources or for land or for taking it over. Just like we just seen a perfect example with Venezuela. This is America's history. People are looking at Israel and seeing their terroristic actions. So there's a recompense about to come down upon them for it. So that's why it says, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So what does it mean when it says to beat your plowshares into swords, your pruning hook into spears? Those are weapons. Those are tools of farming being turned into weapons, which is basically saying get out of that mindset of chilling, of peace, of sitting back. Send out your men to fight. It says, let the weak say I am strong, which is saying that these smaller nations, they about to have stronger artillery. They about to have their hands on different ballistic missiles. They're going to be in a mindset of joining in with these stronger nations, i.e. Russia, i.e. China, and fighting with them. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. You know, so let's go to Ezekiel chapter 38. You know, this is beautiful. You know, it's we're excited when we see these things come to pass. We want war to happen. We want calamity to happen. We want these evils to come upon the earth. And why? You know, because it's you know, it's scary times be coming into, but it's beautiful times at the same time, because these are the prophecies we need to come to pass so that Esau's downfall can come. As the scriptures say, you know, we grabbed this yesterday on the highways. You know, I'll bring it out again. It's 2nd Ezra chapter 7 and verse 43, which says, but the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of the immortality for to come, wherein corruption is past. So the day of doom, you know, that fateful day where in World War III, where these different nations of the earth shoot their missiles over at America, shoot their missiles over at Israel, and destroy these places, when the Lord returns with the angels, destroying these places, bringing salvation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. That's the end of this time. And so when we see these prophecies coming to pass, we're getting closer and closer to that coming. And it says what? It's the beginning of immortality for to come. Why? Because the kingdom of the nation of Israel is going to be established, where the Israelites are going to be immortal. We're going to be in our second covenant, ruling in righteousness, as the scriptures say. Righteousness. Let's grab it. In Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 15, where it says, for righteousness is immortal, simple, and we're going to be ruling in righteousness. All the different evil ways that Esau has been pushing upon this earth, his idol worship, his wickedness, his ideologies, his science, his his violence, that's going to be rooted out of the earth. He's going to be put down into captivity underneath us, as well as these heathen, and we're going to establish this earth in righteousness. You know, and it says what? The former things shall pass away, in Revelation 21:4, which is saying that when our new heavens and new earth is established, it is going to be replenished and set right. Everything is going to be in its right state. You know, we're going to fix this earth up from how Esau has destroyed it. That's why it says corruption is going to be past. You know, so we're looking for the day of doom, so that this transition of powers can happen. It says in 2nd Ezra 4 and 28, it says, but as concerning the things whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee. For the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. So the evil is sown. What is that evil? It is Esau reigning over this earth. And it's sown, which means it's planted. So it has to be uprooted. So it says what? If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good. So we're seeing the uprooting happening as we speak. We see Esau being exposed, and what's going to happen after the exposing is that the destruction is going to come. Let's get 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 8, where it says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. So the wicked is being revealed. First it was the prophets, the men of the Lord, revealing the wicked. But now the whole world is pointing out who the wicked is. You know, who's the problem in this earth. That's why you had Iran just last week or a couple weeks ago. They was burning that statue of Baal, you know, and tying it to America, tying it to Israel, tying it to these Western leaders. Why? Because they're saying this is who y'all worship. Y'all worship devils, you know, and these heathen over there ain't no better, you know, worshiping Allah, worshiping they different gods, you know, but they got the right idea. They understand the evils that these Edomites is involved with. And people are seeing the different wicked actions and not staying silent about Esau's wickedness no more. So it says what? That the wicked would be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and then what? And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So Yahushai's return is going to come after Esau is exposed and his wickedness is laid bare. So let's go to Ezekiel 38. And this will probably be the last precept before we close the lesson out. Ezekiel 38 verse 2, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog. So who is Gog speaking about from the land of Magog? It's talking about Russia. As a matter of fact, there was a headline I seen not too long ago about Russia's reaction to what's going on here. Let me try to find it real fast. If I can't find it quick, I'll just move on. Yep, here we go. Russians threaten military strikes on Europe in revenge for Iran, and they said, this is crazy. The quote says, Trump untied our hands. Let's read a little bit of this. It says, tensions between the Kremlin and Western allies have reached a new fever pitch following a series of aggressive statements from high-ranking Russian officials. And this is prophecy, because it says in Ezekiel 38:3, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor. So what's that talking about, where hooks will be put in Gog's jaws? It's saying that Russia is going to be put in a mindset to go forth and fight. And look what we're reading. Russia's threatened military strikes on Europe. It says the rhetoric under this is reading a little bit of that article. It says the rhetoric underscores a dangerous shift in the geopolitical landscape as the Kremlin moves to categorize European NATO members as direct participants in the ongoing conflict. So there's sides being taken. There's a standoff. These threats ain't gonna be threats no more. These nations about to start moving, just like Iran has. So it says, so let's read verse 4 again. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. And we see Russia doing that already and being put in that Soviet Union mindset. That's why Russia is moving forward on Ukraine, wanting that territory back. And they're not going for any type of diplomatic alternative. They're not going for any type of peace deal or trade agreement. No, they're going for it with war and getting what they want. And they're going to fight for it. And when we read on, it says, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, which is what? Iran, Ethiopia and Libya with them, talking about African nations, African countries, all of them with shield and helmet. So they are going to join Russia. Who else is going to join Russia? Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands. So that's talking about Turkey. And who else? It says, and many people with thee. So not only these nations that were just named are gonna join Russia and fight alongside them, but it says that many people with them as well. So we can it's going to be other nations that weren't named here, such as China, such as North Korea, and others that are going to be fighting against these Western powers. And it says, what? Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So it says that Russia is going to be a guard to these nations that was named. Who was the first one? Iran. You see, Iran ain't just going to be fighting this fight by themselves. Eventually, Russia is going to get involved, and it may not be in the next couple weeks. It may not be in the next couple months, because again, we have to understand there's a series of prophecies that have to come to pass, before we see, other things happening, before we see the peak of World War III. But we know that this is going to come to pass, and based off the landscape of the world and how things are going, it's going to be very soon. There's going to be no telling how the Lord, is going to speed up the times and bring about this prophecy of the MOTB. We about to be out of here soon. So hey, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baharachar Kwadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS, and a salutation unto the elect. Shalom.